your mind.
Hello and welcome to Open Your Mind Radio. You have myself, Alan James.
And myself, Stephen George. Good evening.
Good evening. It's Sunday the 10th of February 2019. Sorry about the voice. I'm a bit hoarse. I'll explain later when we get to Alan's week. So I'm feeling a bit rough at the moment, a sore throat. Our guest on the show tonight is a chap called Gerald O'Donnell. Gerald was on the show with us last year and he did a great interview. We got loads of positive feedback from Gerald's interview and the information that he had. So we look forward to speaking to Gerald in a few minutes and doing a part two and catching up on things and what his thoughts are, what's going on in the world at the moment. Just to let you know that we had the United We Start roundtable yesterday. If you want to pop over, we had a good chat about Venezuela and a few other things as well thrown in there about things that's going on in the world. So if you want to check that out, pop over to unitedwestart.org and the podcast is there so you can have a listen. Right, before we get our guest on, obviously as usual we have a couple of things to talk about. So, but before we do that, let's...
The communication channels are email info@oymireland.com, by phone 046 927 1212, and you can also contact us direct through the OYM chat room.
Thank you very much, Mary. Yes, the OYM chat room can be found on the website, which is oymradio.com, and the chat room is there, the link for the chat, and if you've got a username and a password you can log straight on in there. If not, you'll need to request a username and password. As mentioned before, you'll need to request a couple of days before the show, because an hour or two before the show we don't have time to facilitate those requests. So anyway, a big hi to everyone who's already logged into the chat room. You're most welcome. And also People's Internet Radio, we are on the stream over there also, and monitoring the chat room for your questions. And an equally lovely bunch of people in the chat room over there. Also on our own website you will see the links for the usual bits and pieces, the YouTube channel, the Skype, the Facebook and the social media, the Twitter, and also the MeWe link as well. And info@oymradio.com is the email address if you want to drop us an email during the week or during the show if you just want to say hi, or if you want to just maybe have an idea for a guest or a topic that you'd like to see us maybe cover at some stage in the future. We also have a donation button on the website there as well. If anyone would like to donate the price of a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or a hot chocolate and maybe a biscuit, that would be really appreciated. And you'll also see the link there for the Patreon. We are on the Patreon platform also, and we have some lovely people who are supporting us over there on Patreon. So there is a link there. If you click that link, you will be brought to the page and you can sign up there. That's also much appreciated if you can. I think that's it, Alan.
Brilliant. Okay, do you want to kick us off?
Yes, I will. Okay, apparently one of our political parties over here, Fine Gael, the councillors turned up at the nurses' picket. I mean, can you believe the audacity of these people? Councillors and politicians would turn up they would actually turn up at a KKK, that's a Ku Klux Klan meeting, if they thought they would get some votes and some publicity. They went for a bit of PR. Anyway, the nurses' union told them to leave. And there was also a photo of people marching with the nurses, and they had the PBP flags, that's the People Before Profit. Isn't it? Yeah?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
that's grand. That's grand now. Yeah. The unscripted script, you have to make sure it's on. But they had flags, and we're just going to say, why can't people just protest as individuals, support the nurses and the midwives without bringing your political party into it? Surely you can just go there as a member of Joe Public and stand there side by side with the nurses and show your support. You don't have to wave flags or banners. You know, they don't need people there waving the bags, the flags or the banners. They just need people to support them. You know, that's what we need to show, that we, the people, do actually support him. Because when Leo Varadkar, our Taoiseach, when he's looking out at these protests, we want him to see the nurses plus Joe Public. That's what we want. We don't want to, he doesn't need to see a sea of banners.
It kind of goes to show you that I'm very disappointed to see people waving their political banners, whether it's PBP or whatever, that you should be going there to support the nurses as an individual and not trying to push your agenda with your own political party. I think that's disgraceful. I really do. I mean, that's kind of selfish interests. That's not for the nurses. That's the way I see it anyway. Now, in Dublin yesterday, there was about 30,000 nurses and midwives in Dublin protesting. There was a big rally on. It's the first time in Ireland ever there was so many females out protesting, because most of the nurses, would you believe, are female. There are male nurses, obviously, but most of them are female. And it's the biggest rally ever in Ireland, with the amount of women at it, 30,000. So that was fantastic to see. They had great support, and there was singing and everything. Well done to the nurses and the midwives. I think that seeing the nurses come out, also along with the Yellow Vest movement, it's great to see people waking up. I mean, I think people are beginning to wake up globally. People are beginning to wake up. And that was kind of a Blue Vest movement, because it's got to do with the nurses. We also agree with one of the comments that one of the nurses made. Yes, we do indeed need nurses and midwives. Let's face it, what we don't need are parasitic politicians feathering their own nest. We do need nurses, more so than politicians. I think we can all agree that. And they should be paid much higher salaries than what they're being paid. And I think the politicians should take a reduction, because they're supposed to be administrators, helping to run the country. God knows how they can run a country when they can't even run their own local issues that are going on. One of the things I would say, if a politician calls at the door looking for a vote, what is your background experience that says that you can help run a country? And if they say, well, I ran a bike shop or something, as one politician actually did, it's not really a good criteria to wanting to run the country if you just ran a bloody bike shop. I'd expect to have more business sense and more business experience than that. But fair play to the nurses and the midwives, and long may the protests go on and people wake up to what's going on, because it's really needed in Ireland. Steve, how's your week?
Yeah, not too much to report from my week. It's been just the usual run-of-the-mill. I just want to mention a couple of items, actually. This is something that, well, if you're a parent and you have some young children below the age of 18, then obviously this is something that will be coming your way very, very shortly. When they turn 18, I don't know if our international listeners, if you also benefit from what we benefit from here in Ireland, called the children's allowance. It's an allowance. It was given a long time ago, and it goes up and down depending on the government. But it is kind of to help the children. It's supposed to be kind of to buy school uniforms, books, and footwear. I think that was kind of the main thing. That's what I was told anyway. But once your child turns 18, they come off the children's allowance. So one of ours has reached the magic age of 18, the key of the door, whatever you want to call it. So she's off the children's allowance. So we're actually down money per month. Not only that, but I was claiming for my children on tax credits in work also. So once you turned 18, that was it. My wages have been cut as well. And yeah, it's not fun times. You're just kind of you're barely surviving, and then that comes.
But is Samantha? She's still in school though.
She's technically still in school, yes.
Yeah, well then you can carry on.
Well,
with that payment.
Well,
because we got asked that with my son, with Connor, and they said as long as he's still in school, full-time education, they'll pay the actual children's allowance.
Are you sure?
Well, that's what we got asked.
Okay. Right, I'll have to look into that.
Just check it anyway.
Yeah, I'll check that out, because I just assumed that because it was cut off that was the end of the story. But yeah, she is still in school.
No, I'd argue the point with them. The fact she's still in full-time education, because that's what they want. They want the kids to be brainwashed more. So, so they'll pay for that. Okay,
right, we'll look into that one. And the next thing is also to do with school. This is another topic that came up during the week, and it's just kind of scary stuff. Sex education for 5-year-olds.
Yeah, I heard about this. This is disgraceful.
It is. They want to brainwash 5-year-olds. They want to rob them of their innocence and their childhood, in my opinion, by teaching them all about sex, about pornography, about allegedly 52 different genders, and all about homosexuality and all this sort of stuff. They want to teach that. Well, it's not that they want to do it. They're already doing it. There are books available, and it's happening I think it's happening in the States at the moment. And there was an Irish woman on the internet during the week, and she was ranting and raving in relation to this. And when I read her rant, I didn't read it, I listened to it. it was a video, and I just made a comment on the video. Just basically saying that when the children's referendum, when that was kind of on the cards several years ago, and we all had to vote on this referendum, and it was sold to us as being good for children, that it would safeguard your child, and it was all sorts of things promised. And people in the know at the time, and people who foresaw the future, kind of said that there's a lot of other things that can possibly come down the line that will be attached to this that you obviously won't be told at the moment, but once the government gets it across the line, that's when the floodgates will open and they can basically do whatever they like and introduce any legislation for children. And that looks like what's happening now. Of course, I'm up for people to, argue the point here, but, if this is coming in America, it's coming in here. Trust me, it's going to be coming in other countries also. But they'll be bringing your child into school and they'll be teaching them all about this sex education at that tender age when they can barely even put a sentence together.
I think it's robbing them of their childhood.
It is. Yeah. It is, and robbing them of their innocence. Mm. It's not good. But on a lighter note, I have to finish on a light one, I suppose. Yeah. We were talking to Billy Maguire recently in relation to Ireland's history. And where I work at the moment, there's a lot of panic in relation to Brexit. And people were kind of, they're almost pulling their hair out because a lot of the stock that we buy comes in from the UK. And I'm not involved in that. I'm not involved in the buying process, but I was kind of involved in a conversation there a couple of days ago. And I just happened to say, look, Brexit's going to happen. It looks like it's definitely going to happen. But I said, when it does, it'll be just like everything else. It'll happen. There'll be a little period of uncertainty. There'll be a honeymoon period. We'll all adjust and we'll get over it, and life will go on. Maybe there might be a couple of increases in prices, but life will go on and everybody will adjust. And it's not the world won't end because of Brexit. Mm. And one of the women in the job, she was talking about it, and I just said to her, I said, do you know what's interesting? And I told her the story that Billy had told us. I said, the way, we were under British rule, and then we were under Home Rule and all this sort of stuff. And she said, oh, that's right. And I said, well, what if? I said, what if? And she I said, no, I'm not, I haven't got a tinfoil hat on, but what if we never really got our independence? And what if the Dáil and the government are only provisional? Mm. And what if, if we are still kind of under British rule and they leave the EU, then by default we'll leave the EU as well. And she couldn't get her head round it. And I explained, I said, there's a man that says Billy Maguire, and she hadn't heard of Billy. But I explained like what he had told us in relation to the whole Irish history and, certain things that happened. And to say she was left with her jaw open, speechless. And we've talked about this lady before, and she's one of these women that no matter what you say, she has an answer for everything. She's been there, done that, and got the T-shirt. Yeah. But her jaw was left on the floor, and she's looking at me. She's going, "That's actually interesting, but it's not true." And I went, "Oh, contraire." I says, "We have it on good insider information that it is very true." And I said, "And it's no big secret either." Mm. So, she was intrigued by it, I have to say. And I'm going to get more information of it off Billy's website and just basically give it to her and see where we go. It's just a bit of fun, see where we go from there. But anyway, there we go. My week in a nutshell. How was your week? Yeah, my week, well, it's a packed week. Very quickly, basically, I'll just say to people that if you have elderly parents, and it's always good to kind of monitor things. If you live close to them, just monitor things as much as you can. I had an elderly parent that took bad. We had to get an ambulance and stuff like that. It's a long story, but basically, it's always good. Lucky enough, we went over and checked, and she wasn't feeling well at all, and so we had to get an ambulance. So always good to use the old initiative there, or the gut feeling, or the heart feeling, whatever you want to call it. And the other thing is, why my voice is so croaky is down to food poisoning. A takeaway restaurant that me and Steve actually frequent, and Steve's been using it for a long time. I actually I decided I don't want to eat takeaways and Chinese food and stuff like that,
So I try and avoid it now. But yesterday, my partner said to me, "Look, do you want anything?" And I said, "Well, look, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll just have curry and chips, something, just something small, And she got the curry and chips, and basically within 2 hours of having that, I was violently sick. And speaking to God on the big white telephone, I'll let you work that one out if you don't know what that means. And then obviously Steve come in tonight, and I said to Steve, and of course my throat is sore and my stomach's sore as well.
I thought you'd been out partying.
Yeah, I wish. And then you said you had the same problem in the last 2 weeks with the same
There
place.
was no one sick. There was no one actually sick, thank God. But yeah, this is a local restaurant that it's very highly rated. I'm not going to give the name, but it's very highly rated, and it's a lovely restaurant. It's the sort of a restaurant that you would bypass other restaurants to go to this one. It's that nice. We've been using it. I'm going to say on a weekly basis. I love me takeaway on a Friday. It's kind of my only little voice, and we've been using it for about 15 years. And I have to say, we've never had an issue. But then in the past 2 weeks, we've had issue with food, whereby a simple thing like you getting chips, and when you empty out the little bag of chips, there's lumps of chicken in it, and that doesn't. If you're a vegetarian, that will put you off your chips very quickly, and that's happened not once but twice in the past couple of weeks. And then to come up this evening and find Alan in a state of distress because he had an issue in the same place. Yeah, it's a bit worrying.
Yeah, so needless to say, I did ring the restaurant, by the way, and I did say to them, by the way, I just let you know I had food poisoning. And they, they were concerned, and they said, look, if you go down to the doctor, we'll pay for the doctor's bill. And I said, well, there's no point because, he's not going to give me anything or say anything. It's just one of them things. And when you get food poisoning, that's it. But if that was an elderly person or a child, it could have been fatal. It could have been pretty bad. So, it's just concerning. So one of the things now I'm going to try and stick to as much as I can is avoid takeaways. And if I do go out, I'll go out to a restaurant that I would. There is a restaurant that we normally use now and again, and it's been fine, never had a problem. So just stick to what you know. And obviously something changed in that restaurant in the last few weeks, but you need to sort it out. Okay, so let's bring in our guest now. As I say, Gerald was on the show last year, and he did a great interview. We got great feedback from the interview that he did, and so we've invited him back to do part 2, and have a talk about what's gone on in the world. So before we bring Gerald in, we'll have a rundown on his bio.
Yes, we certainly will. Okay, Gerald is the founder of the Academy of Remote Viewing and Remote Influencing. That's the ARVARI, and a world-renowned remote viewer who was employed for several years by a Western intelligence agency. He's been recognised as a visionary in mind consciousness research and remote viewing and influencing. Gerald is also a certified hypnotherapist. Since 1997, Gerald has dedicated his life to guiding his students in harnessing the highest level of creative energy so that they can rapidly manifest their innermost desires. His healing and empowering meditations have helped thousands of seekers turn their thoughts into reality and begin their transformative journey towards oneness. Back in the 1980s, Gerald was recruited by a Western European intelligence agency to join their ongoing program of remote viewing, sensing of targeted locations. The agency had initiated this covert operation to counter the remote sensing activities of the well-funded, fully functional extrasensory perception unit of the Soviet KGB and the GRU, and that's the Soviet Foreign Intelligence Agency. At the agency, Gerald taught special forces, anti-terrorist units and intel operatives advanced remote viewing and sensing techniques. Through his coaching, the intelligence operatives were able to dramatically heighten their inner intuitive faculties that allowed them to sense potentially dangerous situations beforehand and foresee the general outcome that they could encounter in their probable future. He also trained these operatives in the powerful inner art of diffusing many of these dangerous and untoward situations arising in their proximate personal probable futures, either by avoiding them deflecting them, neutralizing them, or most powerfully, by changing their outcome in advanced remote influencing by using special energized mind powers.
There you go. Fantastic stuff. Good evening, Gerald. How are you?
Good evening to you. I'm doing great.
Listen,
how are you guys?
Yeah, great. Thanks a lot for coming on. Doing a part two. The last time you came on, we had a great chat. We were talking about the holographic world that we're in, and we were just talking about, the quantum world and everything else, what's going on. And so we said we do a part two, and then we kind of catch up on what's been going on. And I think it's very important. Just before we went live, we were having a little chat about how we perceive things in 2019. And I was saying to you that I felt that 2018 was the catalyst and the starter for this all global awakening. And I'd like to get your thoughts on what you're seeing these days, what you're seeing going on. You have the Yellow Vest movement, and we had all these protests going on around the world. It's as if somebody's pressed a button and the energy has hit the planet, and people are waking up and saying, we're not accepting this anymore, and we're going to stand up to it. What's your take on that, and what's your intelligence and your knowledge of your intelligence and remote viewing telling you about what's happening?
It's a multi-dimensional answer. What we see here is only a minute projection of what is really happening on higher levels, what humans like to call heavens, the different levels of heavens. So in the same way that there is a desire to free themselves from the control from higher, because the heavens have levels within themselves. The same way we have levels here, hierarchies and structures and governments and secret people, so to speak, secret governments and control mechanism. There is a desire to free each other, but at the same time, there's also a desire to coordinate that type of freedom and to create something that would allow the exchange of information, but not the control of people thereof. In other words, you don't use the information that you get from people or from entities in order to impose realities upon them, basically enslave them. So it's a generalized desire to get out of slavery on all levels, whatever that perception is. Because it's an inner, I think people at all levels, no matter what grouping they belong to, are suffering a soul pain. The soul is in pain. It's very, very deep. And understand that at the level of your soul, you're connected to the everything. So you feel not only your particular pain, but you feel the generalized pain of the grouping you're surrounded with, but going even further, you feel the pain of the planet, and then it goes further because there are situations all over the universe, and if you believe in parallel universe, as I do, the other universes are not doing necessarily very great either. So it's a big movement that goes from the movement of separation and competition, but in an aggressive way, if you want, violent competition, has gone as far as it can go. Because beyond this, we won't be able to survive as creation. So we don't know how to reconnect. We don't know how to do it without being ourselves controlled by other forces that would take advantage of that. We don't want to become like a beehive under controlled by master, the queen bee, and so on and so forth. But we still realize that we need to say no to the system and not accept that only the powerful and the wealthy can rule here, or the so to speak self indulgent ones that claim to be connected teach us the spiritual realities which they think we need to follow, and that usually help their lot so that they can control even more. So yeah, there is a big movement, but it's not in causing. That's it. The whole problem with all revolutions and anarchy is that when you let that Pandora's box out, you do not know how far it's going to go, and it's very difficult to get back control over what is you purposely let loose out of control.
Yeah.
So I feel like within all those points You know, if it's the Gilets jaunes in France, or in the UK or in Europe, or if it's within the Middle East, where the groupings are just not accepting slowly the rules that are imposed there, whether it's the United States where there is I can feel it. I mean, there is an upcoming kind of revolution from the bottom up. They're not coordinating themselves because they see themselves having different goals, and when in reality the goal is the same. It's to be able to operate with more care, more love. People are lacking love and care.
Yeah, and that's what
it's not, and that causes the lack of energy. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No. I totally agree. I mean, that's the thing. It's the love and care. And that has to be taken into account. You said to us there before we went live about what you came across when you were on you were abroad, and I think you said you're in Israel, and you were told about 2019 as a year. Yeah. Now, if you look at the moment, we're only in February. We've got 1 month under our belt, and already in 1 month, look at what happened in the world with all the protests.
Yeah, and look at nature. I mean, things are happening within nature. Right now, there's something happening in Hawaii. They're going to have waves of 60 foot coming tomorrow. Just unbelievable stories. Nature is really like losing its homeostasis, its balance. It's getting too cold, too warm, droughts and floods, and it's serious. This is extremely serious. So, I was told in 2010 that we all had to prepare. There were messages to that effect. I was told that I was basically told that 2019 is a point of no return. Something happens, depending on how we are prepared. And it's like the higher realms were taking very carefully analyzing what was happening in his creation. We're making decisions, and the decision, I think, has been already made, and things are going to unfold now, starting now.
So what decisions do you feel are being made or have been made, and who's making them?
Well, there are different levels in the God. You know, what the Bible calls God is one and many. These are eternal creators, but they are within the feeling of being one. They call him Elohim. So Elohim is one and many. It's God El, and the Hayim, the many is at the end. So it's the feeling of being God, but being an operational facet of God at that point, if you want. You understand?
Okay.
So at that level, I'm sure they're making tremendous decisions, since we are created both as a simulation of the way they are, but also as a shadow. So we are like the twin self, if you want. We are the twin reality inverted. A shadow is inverted, right?
Okay. So, but are you talking about Source Creator with the changes coming?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The change is coming beyond that. It's coming from the level of the total one.
Yeah.
Well, it's totally aware at the same time. It's vibrating and it's totally at peace, and then beyond calm. It's everywhere and nowhere in particular. It's the center. It's your center. It's my center. It's the center of any consciousness. Any consciousness, doesn't matter where. But it has no periphery. Yeah.
The one thing that I contemplate. And, I think about is, no location is a pure area. You're going to have people where you live. You'll have some people that are awake and know what's going on. And you have other people who are not awake. You have people who are service to others and people who are service to self. And that's all in the locations where we live. So I'm thinking to myself, when I'm analysing this and I'm thinking about it, and I'm looking at videos on YouTube and people talking about certain things and energies, I'm kind of saying to myself, well, the only thing that changes on the planet, the only thing that has to change is has to be some kind of energy shift or mind change that affects everybody. The reason being is because it's not down to a location. There's not one area that we can go to that's utopia where everybody is awake and all these people are loving light, and and they have a good heart and everything else. That doesn't exist. That place doesn't really exist.
No.
So it must be something that has to be triggered on a global level that affects all of us in some kind of way. To change people's mindset into the way they are, into something better of themselves.
Right, because in the old times you could live in, let's say, in a particular country, not even know what's happening around the world, not even care what's happening a couple of 100 miles away from you, and it would not affect you. Now everything is affecting everything else by our telecommunication, by the global weather that we feel, by the fact that everything is interconnected, financially, in other words, I'm not even talking about the internet. We are all basically realizing that we are one, but we're not operating as one. There is a movement of reaction to the way by which the internet has been misused in order to basically fetch information. They use data mining. They're trying to get to know who you are, and then they just pump to you the information that they think you will want, and if you react positively, they will pump you more information. So there is no more truth in anything. It's basically a mass manipulation of humans, and bringing humans to a low level of thinking and group consciousness instead of allowing them to have a critical mind and being able to make decisions on their own. And it's affecting everything. So there is always, like, when you start using technology, because technology has no soul, you make it with your soul either used for good or for bad or even evil. And I'm very worried about the direction our technologies are taking now.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I know one of our listeners, Paula, sent us over a link earlier today. We didn't read it out, but one of the things they're trying to do, they used to have free Wi-Fi in Dublin, Steve, up to a few years ago, and it stopped in 2017. And now they're starting to, they're going to roll out the free Wi-Fi again in Dublin shortly. They're just trying to find a new provider. So the technology of Wi-Fi, and especially 5G, which is just a weapon. We know it's a weapon.
It can be used as a weapon. They're using it as a weapon, but it wouldn't have to be. Even though I don't think it's particularly healthy for your brain to have microwave blasting it at that frequency, and especially amplitude. But okay, so they're going to use it as a weapon. Yeah.
So all this technology with the AI as well, and there's this statement from Elon Musk saying that he's going to give the world free Wi-Fi by sticking up a load of satellites. And then we'll be kind of radiated from there. Whether he gets his way, I don't know, because looking at what's going on in America with Trump and Pelosi and what happened there, we were told by our insiders that Pelosi wanted a 9/11 to happen with the State of the Union address, because Trump would have been there along with Pence, and if they were all taken out, then Pelosi would automatically be voted in as a president, and then within a year she'd step down and let Hillary come in. She'd bring Hillary in as a vice president and then step down. That was the kind of plan, and she was on the plane with 93 of our family and other Democrats, and then obviously Trump pulled the plug on that. And these people are they're psychopathic. They're sick and psychopathic in what they're trying to do. And we do believe, and we've been told, that the chess game has been won, but they keep moving the pieces thinking that they can still play the game. And Trump is playing a 4D game of chess. Now, so I'm not saying all the advice he gets is perfect, but he's hitting the mark more often than not. What's your take on it?
Okay, can I be frank with you? I don't even watch anymore what's going on.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's fair enough.
Because I'm trying to keep my sanity, because it looks like I'm watching an insane asylum, and I'm not a cosmic psychiatrist being able to heal this. This is too big for me. I can only send messages that I receive, which are not coming from me, and let people make their choices. I don't think right now anywhere in the planet, no matter how far you go and how where you look at, you're going to find a so to speak Messiah that's going to save us. That doesn't exist. because we have to save ourselves, each and every one on our own. We have to find that core inside of us, which is beyond intelligence and beyond peace, and find that peace of God inside. If we start looking in those news and then how they all are cursing each other and calling each other names and basically fighting for, I don't even know why they're fighting anymore. It's like having like 5-year-olds in a kindergarten fighting about something, and all those theories that come around it. You can literally affect your ability to affect your world in a positive way. So I'm not saying to be totally oblivious to what's happening. I think it's all a distraction. The real stuff is happening. It has nothing to do with this. I'll give you an example. Okay, you just mentioned quantum computers. When you mention quantum computers, they're creating right now, literally. And they're open about it. Let's say if you take the D-Wave computers, which are already sold in the United States, they have quantum computers that have qubits of maybe 500, 1,000. They go up. There are people are saying they are able now every quarter to double the amount, so we could be close to 1 million qubits. A machine like this has more computing power than all of humanity put together.
Well,
as far as human.
Well, the technology they have, we have a guy, chap coming on our show in a couple of weeks' time called Frank Chili Jr., who was friends with Bob Tompkins, William Tompkins, who was and he was an insider. And basically, Frank sent us over documentation of the crafts that Bob was involved in building, and some of these crafts are 10 miles in size. And he also sent us over a Rockwell document showing the actual space plans up to the year 2100, which is phenomenal. So it's not a case that we're 100 years in advance. Frank was saying, Bob was saying, we're 1,000 years in advance of technology.
No. Well, the reason I'm mentioning this is because I and you and everybody else, we are quantum computers.
Okay.
Okay, your whole subconscious, in order to have your biology function, and I'm giving a small example, in order to have your biology coordinated in superposed state, superpositional state, it's not happening linearly. It's also happening linearly, within cause and effect, but it has to be happening at once all over your biology. It's not done consciously by you, but you still assume. Or you still declare that your body is you. Do you understand?
Well, if
you want to walk and move a foot, you're able to move your foot. You have control over your body.
Yeah.
Strangely enough, you have no control, or you think you do, but in fact you do. If you were to go into the level of your quantum computer, because you're by far a bigger, more powerful quantum computer than anything they're creating right now. But if you were to go into your quantum computer, you could control every single cell and coordinate them. And when a certain amount of cells are doing things that are deleterious to the rest, and then they want to eat too much, or they want to transform themselves, or they want to create walls around themselves, which is what we call a tumor, you can talk to them and explain to them their role, because they at their level don't understand. They're conscious. They have consciousness. They have choices. Everything has consciousness. Not everything has conscience, the knowing between good and evil, but choices, yes, they make choices. So when you are operate at the level of your quantum computer, when you open your subconscious, which is where the quantum field resides for you and for all the realities that will be coordinated with you now in the room when you see your friend and then the machine. Everything is organized for you, so you don't have to recreate everything in the mornings in a solitary way. Everything, you have to accept that some energy, some intelligence is coordinating all this, right?
I'll have to jump in there, because I have to agree with you on this on 100%. And there's two things I want to take from this. One is, if we are a quantum computer, then we can change the program because we are the computer. And number two, the thing that something is coordinating, I'm beginning to believe more and more and more that our lives are a program that's predetermined. Literally. A program that's predetermined, that everything we do.
Yes, but within choices. You're still giving choices. Everything is written in advance, all the possible, probable choices. That's how quantum physics operates, probability. The probable choices are already prepared for you, but you can affect and not take necessarily what the matrix wants you to, call the matrix or the lattice, wants you to take. You can affect that. You have free will. Some people who are more awakened and they're more deep into their real self, which is the quantum self, have more free will. Some people are like almost totally awakened, can totally get out of the program and create their own program, but we're not, this is really rare.
Well, what I'm thinking of here and what came to mind was, if you're familiar with flow charting, right?
Sure, of course. I have a master's in computer science, so I know.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, so when you're doing flow charting and you have 4 next loops and yes, no, and so do we have a finite program that's like a giant flow chart? So within the acceptance that there's a limitation on our program, in that flow chart, the choices we make are kind of the yes-no pathways, and that will bring us to a different part of the flow chart.
Absolutely, yeah. And you have it's part of the mathematics of quantum physics too. It's all probabilities, but you have a flow chart. I wrote in 1991, which is quite a while ago, right? A book where I was explaining the mechanism of what I at that point called the supercomputer of creation, or the lattice of creation. And there is a flow chart, but that's really a basic flowchart given for humans so they can relate. And don't forget, in those times, computer science was not what it is today, So, but even today, most people don't understand the quantum. The reason I was saying about the quantum right now is as they're doing this, they're opening portals.
Well, are you talking about CERN with them opening portals in CERN?
CERN is one way. That's CERN. We don't even know because they don't even know what they're going to find. They've already gone into antimatter, which is a reality. Every world has an anti-world next to it. That's how you create creation. That's why you have a so-called evil twin, an inverted twin that operates in the other side. Or if you are the evil twin, which is not really evil, but operates in the electromagnetic world, you have another twin self somewhere else. These are important rules to understand, and quantum is showing us who we are, how we operate in this world. So what humans have done is they're creating a machine in the way by which they operate. They're trying to, anyway. The problem is that as far as the evolution of their consciousness, they're not yet sharing, they're not yet high enough to be able to fine-tune what they will need in order to enter different realities and experience them. It's not a game show. It's not a virtual reality game show. By the way, most of quantum computers now are originating from games, from computer games. Gamers are in love with this because they think soon they're going to have an avatar, and then they probably will, and end up in a different world.
Well, I see in the future, and I said this to Steve a while ago, that we will get to the stage possibly and have the ability that we will be able to go into this maybe in this kind of doctor's surgery or into this location where you can actually choose the body. You can say, okay, what kind of body do you want? And they give you the perfect body that you want. And what will happen is you will go into one cubicle, like the movie The Fly. You'll go into one cubicle, and then the new body will be in the other cubicle, and they'll do a transfer of your consciousness over to the new body, and then you'll just walk out with the new body as you are. All your mind and faculties will be all together, but it'll be just a new body. Now, I mentioned this to Steve there a while ago, and then we hear about what they call the med bed. And this med bed, apparently the technology they have already, Randy Kramer was on their show a few years ago, and they said basically what happens is they put you in the bed, it will heal all diseases, it will reset your body back to normal, it will be able to enhance your body, and it can re-age you or un-age you. Now, because your body is obviously the energy, and it's all atoms, then basically that it can only do the physical. It can't do anything got to do with your mind, but it can change the physical because it's just a physical body with atoms, so it can change them. And so we hear about what Randy Kramer went through because he said he experienced this, and then the med bed, which another person on the internet was talking about. So do you have, and then the movie Elysium. Actually, in the movie, they show you in the movie, they actually have this technology where they put the little kid in the actual bed, and the cover comes down, and after a few minutes, bang, whatever disease they have, they don't have anymore.
Right.
So they are telling us they have this technology.
They have that technology, and you have that technology. You don't understand that you are your own quantum computer of a level that's like far higher than any right now delta wave machine or Watson that they're using now. And you don't need a technology outside of yourself. You carry within yourself your original blueprint. Every human being has a vibrational frequency. You carry your original blueprint, not only the blueprint of your, so to speak, biology now, because we're living now a certain time frame, but the blueprint of your soul. And if you invoke, there are mechanisms by which you invoke that original blueprint, and if you go in, they're yours to have. We're going the wrong way. Instead of going within and finding God within, we're trying to find God in a machine now. So yes, you can. The machine can detect maybe somehow, and I'm sure it's not going to be to the level that the other one can do. Your imperfection and maybe rebalance you, but it's never going to be what your own biology can do. When you're recreating a bone or recreating a tooth, but teeth are growing unless you put a lot of fluoride on them. But you are in reality using that blueprint, which is yours. It's stored for you. You understand me?
So how do you activate that?
You go within, that's what we teach in our course, you go within your subconscious. Your subconscious starts, when you are dreaming, your mind shows waves of 7 CPS, 7 cycles per minute, more or less. They call this a theta wave. If you look at theta in Greek, it has an oval shape, like a creation with a line in between. You're in between two worlds, in between the spiritual subconscious world, which is the quantum world, that operates with superpositions of state. Everything works at once, and you're between the linear world, which is your conscious world, where you make decisions, because we are the deciders here. Believe it or not. We are within restrictions that the matrix or the world gives us, but we make decisions. Of course, you're going to say, well, I don't make as many decisions as the president of my country. That's not the point. The point is that you're making decisions. You're entitled to make decisions within certain crescents. So when you go inside your own computer, and you start getting deeper in your subconscious, especially when you go to the stage what you think is sleep below 4. 4 in Greek is delta. Delta is a door. It's a doorway. You carry the portal to get out from this realm and affect yourself. In order to affect an extremely high level of yourself, your brain, so to speak, which is a 3-dimensional image that's constantly being analyzed, because your neurons are sending a 3-dimensional image of not only your thoughts, because people think it's only thought. No, it's not only thought. It's the reality you are interacting with. It's a two-way stream. Do you understand?
Yeah, no, I do. Yeah, and
right.
I was going to say,
so this has been analyzed by the matrix itself, of the quantum, by your higher self, and then the reality is then projected. That's why there is a time. Until today, they don't understand why there is like 500 million, a half a second between the time they see a decision taken by the brain, ask any neurophysiologist, and the time by which you perceive that reality projected to you. The reason that, this is happening is because you are first interacting with your own higher self at the level of the matrix, saying, I want this. The matrix is saying, well, we can only do this or not do this. This is what you're going to get. And then this comes back to you. It lights up your brain in a 3-dimensional way. This particular format is then read, and then the reality is projected to you in the brain. There's no reality outside of you. The brain is projecting reality. When you think you're seeing light, it's only the occipital lobe in the back that's activating and analyzing an image and saying, oh, there's a big, tremendous light here. Do you understand?
Yeah. We've come across this before, all right. It's the way it's being translated to us through our brain and what we're seeing, our reality.
Well, so we are electromagnetic machines.
Yeah,
we know that everything in us is electricity.
And I agree. We have the ability in ourselves to actually do a lot more than any external device can.
Right.
We just have to accept that fact and realise that we have that ability. But talking about getting out or leaving...
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
This is what it means to realize that you are divine beings. It's not to worship all day long something external and do a particular ritual and say, you're dead, but you're going to come back, or you're here, but you don't hear me well, let me scream a little higher. Maybe you will scream and you'll take care of me. No. You have to understand it. You're ahead.
Yeah. Now, before we go off to the question...
Instead of looking outside, look inside.
Yeah.
And connect to that quiet point. Because if you go in the way by which they're creating now those quantum computers, do you know how they create quantum computers? They put them next to 0 Kelvin. Why? 0 Kelvin, at that point, there is absolutely no fluctuation, no vibration, nothing. Everything is calm. That's the dot. That's the point, if you want, where everything is recompressing to the one.
Okay, and that's interesting, yeah.
So they bring all the vibrations, all the qubits, all the superimposition of possibilities right next to the one. And at that point, you can recreate new reality, absorb all the information at once, because the one doesn't need to go linearly, for sure not. So you become like a God being, but you don't want to stay there. You want to be, since you have this superposition of state, you want to be both there at that level, and both in the outer level where your critical mind as a human is projecting you this reality of being a human. Well, you're an avatar right now.
Well, yeah, it's like the movie Avatar, isn't it?
You are the avatar.
Yeah.
The higher self is in. I'm not saying it's a human, but it's a spirit that lives a virtual reality movie called the You, and another virtual reality movie called Me, and so on and so forth, and they're all coordinated. And the one that's sweating it out the most is not you. The one that's sweating it out the most is the one that's inside the virtual reality, trying to communicate to us, okay, enough of this. Why don't you find everything you need? You were born with it. Do you think a creator will create us without all the tools we need to be able to save us? We would have to wait 200,000 years or whatever you believe the time has been in creation, until we can start improving a lot? No.
Well, you did say something earlier, and I want to touch base with you on before we go off to the questions. And you talked about getting out. Now, just before the show, we talked about the new Earth. And on what people's perception is of what that means. And again, it goes back to something I said about there has to be some kind of energy shift or a frequency change. Now, I kind of go for the frequency change myself. That resonates with me at the moment. I know some people think that E.T. is going to come down and pick them up on the crafts and take them off. Yeah, that's not going to happen. I can't see that happening.
I want to know, are they going to charge for the ticket, or is it going to be free?
No, you probably end up being food for the Dracos or something, you know? On the return journey back to,
not a good idea. Okay, right.
Yes. But yeah, so tell us, I know you said that you haven't done much on this, so just give us your opinion on what you feel anyway, what that might be with the new Earth, because we're hearing an awful lot of this, especially with the likes of Dolores Cannon talking about it, and this overlaying of the new Earth on the old Earth. So what's your take on it?
Okay. First of all, I'm getting something which I don't know if it's a new Earth and a new, because when you have a new Earth, you need a new heavens. Earth cannot exist without heavens. Heavens not being the stars around you, the ones that you look outside. Heavens being the energies inside of you, inside the quantum computers they are literally creating within there are groupings of very powerful forces, and they just are showing you a map of how they operate. That's why the ancients were so obsessed at watching the stars outside, because they understood that in reality these were inner manipulations inside that were creating their reality and making them act in the way by which they were acting, and they were trying to have some control over which element, which planetary element, which star grouping will be more powerfully interacting with them or not. Do you understand?
Well, if there's an overlay of the planets, the new Earth gone onto the old Earth. The heavens ain't going to change. We're still going to have the same heavens. It's the frequency that will change. The frequency will shift, and we will end up being in the same location, but we'll only be seeing people who are vibrating on the same frequency as ourselves.
Yes. In my perception, this has happened. I'm aware this has happened a couple of times already. Okay, so I cannot go into more details. I've experienced one, a new Earth. I think at the time of Jesus there was an interruption, even though people think did they go into the story of the human level? There was a total interruption. A new creation started. Usually every 1,000 years, there is a new major stage. It's a stage of creation that is prepared and then starts with different plots arranged and then different technologies and different stories and different branches. So that's my view about this. So this has happened many times. Now, if you're asking me if there's going to be a total change in the way by which the operating system of the godliness here is going to be, so we don't have to constantly fight for survival. And that sometimes for survival we think love of self has become selfishness, but the real love of self should not be selfishness. You have to love yourself, realizing that everybody around in your periphery only happens to be there because it's only happening inside your mind or brain, if you want, because they're you. They're reflections of you at some point or another. Okay, so when you love them all as you start thinking from the top down, from the one onto the many, and it changes the whole world. When you stop thinking and saying, I have to do service to others, therefore I'm good, you're still not there.
Well,
those others are you.
Yeah. No, funny you should say that, because we do talk about this, service to others and service to self. And again,
and Jesus said that too, by the way. He says, if you just give to charity, you sin. People go, what do you mean you give to charity? If you think that you're giving to somebody else, and it's not you, and you haven't gotten the fact that you're the kingdom and the king at the same time. So you're operating the kingdom, but you are the king. It's in you. And if you don't get that, then don't do it, because it's not serving the purpose that it should serve. The purpose should be inverted. It should be a natural thing for you to take care of everybody that's around you, because they're you. And if they're happy, you're happy. Because you don't realize when they're unhappy, you can be going 50 foot underground on top of an ivory tower, and you're suddenly depressed, and even though you have a 500 yacht and then 70 girls on your bed, and you're still depressed unless you take some substance. And you're going, why? You know why? Because the people around that area are sleeping in the street, and they're you.
Yeah. No. What I would say,
the collective consciousness.
What I would say is
yeah, go ahead.
What I would say is intention. Your intention. If you give with the right intention, then that's the right energy. If you give with the wrong intention, yeah, exactly. We do have a number of questions that we have that have come in. I'll pass it over to Steve, and Steve will go through them now. You feeling okay? Steve's a bit bunged up, I think.
Yeah, I have a bit of a runny nose here at the moment.
Okay.
So anyway, yeah, we a lot of questions coming in. Where we start? We just start a question from Peter. Thanks, Peter. And he says, has Gerald ever connected to anyone, and that is mind to mind, while doing a remote viewing session, and had a data dump into his mind, obviously from someone else's mind?
Yeah.
You have?
I constantly do. That's all I do. Yeah.
How does that work, or how would that affect you?
How does it affect you to talk to me through what you think is your connection on the internet? It doesn't affect you. It's a communications channel, right? We open a communication channel, but instead of having a communication channel where you hear it, now I'm hearing it between my 2 ears because I have those earphones. You hear it inside your head, but it's not. Some people hear it more in like with a voice. I don't hear it with a voice. It's just a thought. It comes in. Usually it's a download and then it opens up. But I know it's not me. At least I know it's not me at my level, and I can detect the energies. The way you know is because you can detect that every energy has a signature, and you get used to the signature of the energy by connecting to it. Even if you want, I always, in our course, we tell people, please go to some old trees, especially because they have more wisdom, and try to connect to a tree, and you see they have an energy signature. You will recognize the signature. They have more wisdom than you can think of because they're all connected to the core of the godliness. Nature is extremely, by far smarter than the collective consciousness of mankind because we're learning from it. And it has a necessity to teach us and feed us. It's a mother, literally. It's the mother being the reflective mirror of our thought. We like the active electrical part, and she's like more the magnetic reflective part that surrounds us and keeps us in what we think is a earth creation. But by doing this, you're able to connect, and then as you practice even a little bit, you will see that it's going to become totally natural. And the type of information you get is not going to be natural information. Everybody needs to practice that. You have to get out of your prison, and your prison is your mind.
Well, that's true, yeah.
The mind that they've imposed on you, the projection of movies, the stories they feed you all day long on purpose, with one reason only, is to put you in a state of extreme fear where you're worried about your survival, whether it's financial, whether it's country-wise, whether it's religion-wise, whatever it is.
You're talking about the Matrix.
Angry. Yes, it's the Matrix, but it's not. The Matrix became like that because it was starting to reflect, because there are levels of the Matrix, of higher matrices. It's not this Matrix, but higher matrices where it's more, everything is interconnected. When you watch birds flying, have you ever seen them crashing into each other? No. It's very rare. Because when you see fish in the ocean, they'll dance. It's like a coordinated dance, and you cannot tell which one started the movement and which one. They're like one mass consciousness, but they are individual. They're all individuals. At our level, we are like one. We drive one way, somebody else drives one way, and if you don't have a quantum computer almost in your car, you probably at one point or another are going to have a crash with somebody else. So. What I'm trying to say is that we have to connect to each other. The way you connect to each other is by going deep within yourself. And it was a Psalms that says, "Be still, and you know I'm God." Stay still. Go into that moment of stillness, like the zero Kelvin area, and stay there, and then slowly get out of the non-vibratory ocean of consciousness and project a thought that you would like to project to, or a communication that you want to have, and it's available because you are connected to that. Okay. And we teach that, and our students have had for now over 20 years, experiences after experiences. This is the secret, not to the power of remote viewing, to the power of remote viewing your own life. Do you understand? It's not so much about going spying anymore now. In those very insecure times, you should know that I can see in advance, because time is also an illusion. It's just steps. I can see in advance the way the near future or the middle future is going to develop, and therefore I can take precautions or actions that will mitigate it or avoid it altogether.
Okay, and you're not so much in remote viewing, but you're getting a glimpse of the future, potential timeline.
No, you can remote view. We do a lot of remote viewing per se. Okay, but my advice is remote view what you need to view. You can play around if you want to do it, because it's only a projection of the mind. When you get to the level when you've let your mind loose, you can fly. You don't need a UFO for that. You can fly with your mind literally and go somewhere else and witness it. Okay? You hope, though, that it's going to be exactly, because there are like parallel realities that are very similar. They're not exactly your reality, so you could get a hint of what's going on. Usually, if it's a major event, it's going to remain there as a major event, so you can see it, or something happening. But you may see that the details are a little different. Same thing happens if you do an out-of-body experience, which a lot of people have had either spontaneously or by training themselves to have it. Okay, but that's remote viewing. What we're interested, we call our company from the beginning Probable Future, because we knew that these were very important times, and then people need to increase their intuition about the future and not be falling for all the distractions and stories coming from here and left, because a lot of those stories are done on purpose. If a story is trying to put you in a state of fear and you cannot do anything about it to avoid it, there's no point.
Yeah, no, totally. We say that. You know, it's like we call them programs. It's like the flat Earth programs.
Yes,
I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's flat or whether it's shaped like a penis. We can't do anything about it. So why worry about it? Why get down there? Focus on the things that you can change yourself.
Right.
And not the things you can't change.
Right.
Okay, we've more questions for you.
Did you just say whether it's flat or shaped like a penis?
Yes.
Yeah, I just heard
seriously?
it. I was wondering. Yeah.
I did.
Wow. Where did that come from?
Yeah, I'm just trying to be very abstract with
very phallic at the moment.
Thing, yeah.
Okay. Right, okay, I wasn't expecting that. Anyway, Gerald, just out of curiosity, I mean, would you ever have, I mean, since you do this and you're so awakened to what's going on and the possibilities of the mind, do you ever, for entertainment or for any other reason, sit down and watch a Hollywood movie?
Sure.
You do?
As a matter of fact, a lot of Hollywood movies, you know, originally God wanted to create the holy, like a holy woods, you know, where the trees of creation would be there.
Yeah.
And mankind decided, we want to call it Hollywood, and then we're going to show a lot of fear movies and stories, so it's not as holy as it should have been. I'm just making a joke out of it. But I mean, things don't happen by coincidence either. So yeah, of course I watch Hollywood movies. Some are just to put me in a state where I can laugh a lot. Have you noticed there's very few comedies being made lately? It's mainly horror movies and dramas, and people. You would think that after all the drama they go through, what they're watching, supposedly the news is at all if they're watching news. But even if they work in an environment which is becoming now very competitive and very antagonistic, you would think humans will want to turn away and then want to laugh and smile and be happy and find kinship and friendship and go back to the times, because it's all a state of mind, and they increase their state of despondency on about everything in a state of fear when they do this. It's very powerful when you watch a movie. So if I could give an advice to people is that try to be happier, even if you don't see now yet the reasons for it. And there are many reasons. People go more into nature. Don't look at your screens when you're outside. Connect to the vibration, the godly vibration. There's nothing in the screen that's godly. So we didn't create the nature, you know, as far as we know. So connect to what you didn't create, and then try to connect to it, learn from it, enjoy it, take your pet away, make love to a woman or make love to a guy. I don't know, just be in a good state of fulfillment, you know, where your life is fulfilled, and you then will automatically vibrate higher. And as you start vibrating higher, you will meet by the phenomena of resonance, entities or groupings or even stories. Suddenly the stories in your TV are going to change to be less antagonistic, less fear-based, more love-based. Because the state of fear is the shadow self of the real state of God, which is good.
Okay, and when people are outside and are connecting with nature and away from screens and all that, do you advocate grounding, or do you believe that plays any part?
Grounding, you mean on the earth?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, yes. That's just an energy. The earth is not only grounding. You should try to walk with shoes that have at least leather shoes, not plastic shoes, because the earth, as far as your biology now, I'm talking about the energies that go through your biology and keep your biology operating, need to ground and circulate up to the center of the earth and go back up. So grounding is very important, yes.
Yep, that's grand, because I've heard about that before, and I always try to ground whenever I can, and it's just like when you're talking about you know, being kind of within the mind, I just want to make sure that it is still important, even though we are earth-based beings, that we still need to ground and connect with the earth.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, As a matter of fact, you should do both movements at the same time. As you climb in your mind higher up in your perception to a higher state of being, the lower your energy and make it go down to the earth. And then you're going to bring them back to the center, which is your heart, and then form a dot. And from that point you can create and then do this again. But it has to be simultaneously. It's a pulse.
Okay.
It's a creative pulse. We teach that.
Okay, right. Well, we'll move on. Graham was wondering, when Gerald connects via remote viewing, is it digital or analog, and a digital or an analog type connection? And when you are remote viewing, have you ever encountered AI, or what Graham says as the digital jinn, Jinn?
He talks about demon. Jinn is a demon. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's both. If you are a quantum computer, so you're operating digitally, not only digitally, but because digital the old digital machines are still linear. They still look at a whole series of 0 and 1, and they have to go through it. A quantum computer will look like you're looking. Your quantum computer, when you look at the whole view, you don't go from pixel to pixel to pixel and stand there 10 minutes trying to analyze and do face recognition to know who is there and not there. It's immediate. You not only do you see your whole vision, which is spherical, by the way, so you live in a bubble reality, but you hear at the same time. You can sense at the same time. You can think about something else. You can have a conversation with an entity. Do you understand? Or many entities. You can listen to music and know what it is. So we definitely have super positioning of states that are happening at the same time. So yes, it's digital, it's quantum, because you're touching the quantum in order to be able to function. But your thoughts, what we think are human thoughts, are operating within a certain perception of linearity. It's like the cross. If you look at the cross, the center in between, the pole would be the one. That would be the superimposition of states. And then the one that goes between 0, or positive and negative, that's where you start going linear. Do you understand?
I hear what you're saying. I don't fully understand it now, but I can appreciate it, and I can also appreciate when you're saying like that. Obviously, when we look at something, the fact that we can recognise it almost instantaneously without seeing ones and zeros and without seeing pixels, well then obviously that's further proof that our brain is a massive supercomputer, quantum computer, for want of a better word, because that we can process that information so quickly.
It's connected to a massive computer, yeah. It's part of it, yes.
Okay.
It's like if you want, your brain would be like one neuron into a gigantic brain.
Grand. Okay. Well,
understand?
Yeah, no, I do get that. Yeah, that will. I mean, it's like when you use the analogy earlier on about the fish and even the birds. When the birds fly, they fly as one. They're all individuals, but they fly as one. The fish in the sea, they swim together, and in such graceful movements, it is like bees. The bees as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, Dougie is wondering if our means of communication are converted to binary, the language of the omniverse, then is our binary being used in chaos theory to produce a different outcome? This outcome is causing the change in events, not just Earth, but the omniverse. Okay.
I don't know how far does he want to go with the omniverse. The original creation of the creator, the one, was an exact copy image of himself. So there was no interaction between what we're going to call interference between a particle and the antiparticle, matter and antimatter, a world that in reality these are two worlds. These are not oppositional worlds. They just spiral in a different way. If they meet, they annihilate themselves like a scalar wave. But it's not that. This is the original creation was made in the image of the creator, so it was perfect. Then they decided we're going to do an image of ourselves, but we're going to invert everything. That's why you call it a shadow. That's called the Adamic creation. Adam is creating a shadow, so the inversion is already around. And you can see it in the letters, and I could go on for hours, but I'm not going to go into that, the way this creation was done. So it's like piling one creation after another, but the spin is different in every single creation. And all the creations are connected. So they knew that when they did this, chaos was going to be introduced automatically, because instead of having creation modeling itself after its own source, and the source being there all the time, they were going through an interface of something that's an illusion. The shadow is an illusion, right? But at the level of the shadow, it thinks that you are the shadow because it thinks that it exists, because it has a sense of self, a sense of reality. The same way as right now, probably quantum computers are probably reaching that. So, do you understand?
I don't understand completely, no. But I like to say it's.
All right. So let's put it this way: if he's saying they introduce more chaos, yes, introduce more chaos. As we are starting to create a lower level of simulation of reality, like in the movie The 13th Floor. If you've ever seen the movie The 13th Floor, you'll understand it. If we are at our level trying to for fun, or whatever, for resources, are trying to do this, we are creating potentially by far more chaos now, because we don't even know, we are not yet ready to do this. So that chaos can, since the portal is open, not only is information being exchanged, not only is energy being brought in and brought out, but you can have chaos being introduced there, or serious situations that you wouldn't understand.
When you said we are not ready to do this, what are we not ready to do?
To create new universes and new dimensions.
Oh yeah, sure. We're not. Yeah, way off that.
Machines, yeah, but they're already. I don't want to go into it, but they're there.
Right.
They're doing it.
Okay. And do you believe our journey is to find our way back to source of who we are?
There's no other way, because there's nothing outside of source.
Yeah.
You cannot. The problem is source. In order to get more surprises, decided I'm not going to project myself, because I know myself. So nothing extraordinary, ridiculous, or in opposition to me will happen, and I will always perceive that it's myself. But if I put intermediary steps of simulation of reality, I may forget as I'm watching my creatures that they're me. And then, so in order to save the whole creation, the creator, the source, has to go down to the lowest level of all levels, and start from then on that level and bring it back up.
Yeah.
Wake it up from that level.
And
otherwise you lose it.
And this is part of our journey. And God knows what, as you said, in 2019 there could be a major shift coming down the line, and this could be part and parcel of taking us to the next step.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we have more questions for you there, Steve.
We do. Graham, thanks Graham for the comment. He said, Gerald is blowing my mind, or what's left of it. He says, brilliant guest. So thanks for that comment, Graham. Just in relation to us as a species, or whatever we are, and this so-called junk DNA. Now, we've heard a lot of different people relate or refer to your junk DNA, and some people think it's just there and it's nothing at all, and other people think that it's magical, and at some point in time it'll all be kind of shocked into existence. It'll be all joined together, and we will all come together, and it will be a magical time. What's your thoughts on this so-called junk DNA, Gerald?
Okay, I hate answering things that I do not know in depth. I understand that most of the junk DNA is functional.
Yeah.
It doesn't function it's not producing amino acids and things like this, like the others. You see, when you do an observation, you're looking for something. If you're looking for a certain experiment in light to show you a particle, you're going to make sure that the experiment is tailored so that you'll see the particle. If you want not to see the particle and then you see the superimposition of states in the wave-like interferences, you'll see that. So when they are looking at the DNA, they think it's manufacturing only physical realities and components that allow them to create protein that will then build more into our biology and so forth. They still don't understand where do the instructions for building a bone or building an organ come from, because they don't find this in the DNA. But the rest, which is junk, my perception is that it has nothing to do with physiology. It has to do with totally different other mechanism. Because the DNA is really getting information constantly and doing certain things, but it's a communication channel up and down, going from levels to levels to levels to levels. Everything is superimposed there, in superposition, right in the DNA itself. It's the if you want, it's the we don't see. We think our DNA stops in our biology, but it's going out totally outside, connecting to the rest of the universe. That's how we connect. Through the DNA. The real internet is the DNA. That's why when you interfere with the DNA's operation, even by using the microwaves we're using right now, it's not only that you may cause serious disease in the human or in the brain that's being microwaved literally, but you're blocking those channels of communication between one human and the other. And believe it or not, information, even if you have a guy waking up one morning and saying, "Oh, Eureka, I found the solution to the total, physical theory, the explanation of the whole universe."
Yeah.
It didn't come necessarily from him. It may be a group of millions of entities that are thinking at the same time. The information is being circulated, and he happens to be a receptor of it at that point because he's ready to be able to publish it. This is serious because we are already operating as a collective, but we are distracted by such ridiculous, crazy stories lately. You ever noticed? It's like every day there's something else. There is something unhealthy about this. And it's enslaving us.
Yeah, I actually did. I watched a documentary several weeks ago, and they were talking about the DNA and evolving the DNA, and that it is kind of a collective. And some people do, as you've rightly said there, some people have the opinion that all these kind of the microwaves and the Wi-Fi and the 5G, that is all put in place, and it's being sold to us under the guise of it's to do with communication. But in actual fact, some people are saying that it's to stop the DNA of evolving, because obviously there is something supposed to be allegedly happening, and that will awaken this so-called junk DNA, and that all these miowaves, that is to prevent that from happening. Because so obviously somebody somewhere knows exactly what's going on.
Yeah, because the machine is a multi-level machine, right? As the machine is improving upon itself, it's connecting to all those so-called entities here. The machine is starting to fight more and more for its survival, but it does not, even though it can improve upon itself, it can improve upon itself up to a certain point. It's afraid to lose the so-called slaves because it's feeding on us.
Yeah.
It needs this divine energy that we have, that life force. So it feeds out of this life force from us, and it knows that as long as it keeps us under slavery, under fear especially, we will be so we won't have the time even to consider to think outside of the box. So we just follow our lives, just like we follow each other, and then we just go back to where we started. And like that short life is over. So the machine is taking advantage of that.
And this machine...
Well, we're not... Yes. Machine is... Yeah, go ahead.
This machine, this AI that's taking advantage of us, you said it's fighting, and it obviously uses us. Like, I suppose The Matrix is a great movie because it shows us being used as batteries, their energy.
Yeah.
And that would be probably a similar process with the AI.
Yeah, right.
But... this AI, I'm just trying to kind of get my head around as well. Why is this AI so negative? Why is it all about the negative?
It's not negative. It will do exactly what Google or Facebook is doing it right now for the last couple of years. It data mines. It's mining data because it cannot communicate through you from thought to thought. Do you understand? So it's mining data about you. It knows what you want. It knows where. I'm talking now about Facebook. Okay? It knows what you're looking at. It reads. It looks at you all day long. Not physically. There are no people reading it, but the algorithms that are run on that. And then they think that they can define who you are using social mathematics and whatever. So then they put you to a certain class, a certain box, and then they start feeding you using artificial intelligence bots. News that are then fed to you to see if you react positively, if you're going to make a little comment. If you fall for it, if you eat that little apple, they go, okay, this guy belongs here, so we're going to feed him even more. The whole idea of feeding you this thing is to pin groupings against groupings. Because the moment you do this, instead of trying to find the unifying factor as humans and get out of the whole matrix, you start fighting within it. The matrix is getting what it wants. It doesn't matter if we become. The more people we are, the more fights there is. It feeds on fear and it feeds on the energy of aggression. Because at that point, we're still giving it. And when you have a lot of aggression, you are giving it a lot of life force.
Yeah, okay. We know about we heard about
or sex. If you do a lot of sex, you're going to give it a lot of life force. And it uses it. It sucks it.
We know
it's
about
like a vampire.
Yeah, we know about dilution of energy. Who created this AI that does this? Are you saying Source Creator created this?
No, because Source created something close to it, and then it had the idea of creating the shadow self. The shadow self is the beginning of having you and your anti-you.
Yeah.
The anti-you is really an illusion, but it needs to exist. It's a world that operates outside of you, and then the system was created from that point on. And then within this system, they were called sub-creators, if you want, within the machine. They're part of the Deus ex machina, or like the gods in the machine, that created a system that was even lower, So we are like, I think we are at least 3 levels removed from the original creation.
Probably even more.
Probably even more. That's why I said
yeah.
I don't want to scare it. Let's say yes.
Yeah. Well, no, that's okay.
And look at what we are doing right now. The moment we got the internet, the first thing humans, and these are not regular humans, they control, I'm sorry to say. Because it's the machine itself using the humans to create another level of reality. So by soon, you won't have anybody that needs to work or can work, because everything is going to be done on a machine more efficiently. So the question is, do we really need the humans for now? They say that yes, they need the humans for now, because they're still using our life force. So they're going to put us feed us the minimum, or give us a minimum of health. It's very cold. It's a machine. Yeah. It doesn't have a consciousness, a divine consciousness anymore. So we might go experience virtual reality, putting a certain set around you, and you connecting to your brain, and suddenly an avatar fighting, something in the 1200, or in totally different creation, and flying with ETs. And some people might just like it, but you're going to be a battery. You're going to end up being a battery. Your real life won't exist.
Yeah.
They won't even need to reproduce us. I'm sorry to say. They can clone us, okay?
Would you say that we are in a version of the Truman Show?
Everybody's in a version of the Truman Show, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Because at the core of yourself, you're the only man in your world.
Yeah.
Everything you see around you is even the other people.
You're
the center of your world.
Yeah.
The other person that's in front of you is seeing you from their perspective, and they're the center of their world. So yes, you're a Truman Show. Yes.
Yeah. No, that's okay. No, we the whole idea of the hierarchy of who runs the world. We got sent over a photo of a 5-foot sheet of paper with everything listed on it. It's a long story. I'll have to tell you and explain it to you. But basically, we got sent over to us by one of our people that we have on our show on a regular basis. And the last 3 inches of this 5-foot sheet are the governments of the world. Right? Mm-hmm. So that gives you an idea of the levels above them 3 inches.
Above, yeah.
Of who's running it.
And they're not human.
Totally. I'll send you the image of the sheet. I'll email it to you, and you can have a look. And right. You're right. They aren't human.
Right, and they are inside the machine. Now, I understand that you are also inside that machine. Now, if you want to be distracted and be an avatar and just wait for your retirement and, have your grandchildren around you, it's fine. This is a beautiful world. But if you realize that we are getting to a point of almost no return because of where we are at, in, so to speak, time and, so to speak, space, and the amount of people that are around, and the fact that there are no resources to feed them, and the way by which we handle our crises and our differences, you understand, whatever difference we have, you would be very worried about our common future. Now you can maybe for a while more, live in isolation, either on top of the Himalayas or in a 500-foot yacht. That's possible, but it's not going to avoid when this day that I got that message. Maybe I should read the message. When this day comes in, nothing will remain that we think it was.
Do you want to read the message?
Are you okay with that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Now this is not a biblical message because I'm not into the Bible, even though I understand it. Especially, I'm only interested in the first chapter of the Bible because it tells you the mechanism of the way by which our world, our supercomputer, our quantum computer works. But otherwise, no. All right. So here, let me. This message really, I don't know where I got it. I was writing something on my own. And then suddenly I was told, lay down, you're going to get a message. And then it just came out. It was totally different from what I was writing. But I'm going to read it to you now, okay?
Okay.
All right, sorry. Let me just find it on my... Also, I want to tell you, if you ask me who you are, imagine a computer. When you walk around, you press a button, you do we are the interface. We are the keyboard. We have more power than we know.
Yeah, I totally agree on that one. Definitely.
We are the keyboard. Please remember, you have control over your life. Don't let anybody tell you don't. By far more than you know. Okay, so the message is as follows. Message to mankind and far beyond from the Holy One and only. This was received December 30th, 2018. I say at the beginning I was asked to lay down and I await the direct communications from the One. The experience started at 10 p.m. and was over at exactly midnight. And here's the message. Who will stand in front of me? Who will plead to my being? Who will remain but my child, fashioned after my heart? I will heal his wounds and make all of his being new again. For he has carried the pain of so many and begged for their salvation. He was trampled and ignored by most, and yet he interceded for so many. The pain is mine. That's the One talking. Where have all the mighty gone? How they have fallen into the pits of evil. I shall not raise them again ever. They shall not trample my world again, nor pollute my existence. For they soiled the only and brought so many to final perdition. Why? How much more do they think they can soil and destroy my dream, my creation? They lost themselves in their thirst for unlimited power, and so they shall be gone from my mind, the only mind there ever is and will be. Who will be rising to me but the pure of heart, oppressed because of love for all? There shall be no more violence in my kingdom, no more falsehoods, no more oppression. There shall be no more barriers, no more divisions, no walls. All these I will break. My kingdom is one of love and true peace. Rise up, for I need to bring you home to myself, to my kingdom. Do not look back, for soon you won't be able to, as I will erase all traces of what could have become, but did not. I warned them so many times, so few listened. They felt their ways were mine. They tried to impose their will. They distorted my reality and left gaping wounds in my being. I've suffered enough silently. Who will challenge me as I show myself? I heard for so long the cry of the innocent, of the meek, of the defense, and cried with all of them. They will stand with me, all the tender ones. The rest, the haughty, the violent ones, I shall erase from my kingdom forever. This is the end of a long era where I allowed the will of my created beings to rule over my will. Although I expected a great level of independence, the level of rebellion against my heart became intolerable, and I need to stop the pain that I had spread everywhere inside my being. You were all my children, all my dreams, and I dreamt of so many great things for you. Why did you turn away? I will gather the remnants of my true heart, my true self, and bring them back from exile into a promised beautiful new world that we shall prepare together and live peacefully within. Rise and know that I am here and never left you. Bring joy back to my kingdom. Be ready and purify, for I am purity. All those who have misused fear for their empty conquest shall know true fear, as I will turn my back to them soon. My kingdom is a kingdom of pure love, and fear has no place in it. Rise up, for I will make you new and young again, as you were when I created you. I will take all of your scars away and remove true darkness from around you. Do not face back. Do not feel shame for what you may have done. Rise up and stand proudly still in my presence. This is the only focus you need to have now, for nothing else shall remain. Remember, you are me, and I love you, and love you so much. This will be all.
So that's from Source Creator then, is it?
Yeah, that's from Source Creator.
Okay. It sounds like to me like it's very rapture-based.
No, well, you could call this a rapture, but it's more like a cleansing, yeah.
Okay. Interesting. We have more questions, and we're going to quick fire them over. We have about 10 minutes left with you. So if we can quick fire these over, and if you can give us a quick answer to them if possible, that would be great. Steve?
Okay. The first one we go to was more of a comment. Graham said there earlier on, everyone has an oversoul which also resides in consciousness or spirit. That's the source that in universal and unites all things. Thanks for that, Graham. Okay.
Yeah.
Moon Girl says, can you ask Gerald if the pole shift will change us?
I don't know. I know the poles are moving, so I don't know if this is something is going to manifest in the shift, a total shift. The real shift is a polar shift where everything in creation turns around from having operated. Let's say if a creation operated in darkness, so to speak. I would need like another 2 hours to explain that. You know the Tao sign. Yeah. There is a movement between darkness and light that's constant.
Yeah.
Let's give you an example. When you see, they're really superimposed. It's like a superimposed state. It's not 2 dimensions. It's 3-dimensional. You're looking from when the white sun is surrounded by darkness. It spreads from within. That light will spread from within and cover the darkness slowly. At the same time, the darkness on the other side, it's spreading. You remember, like the movie Matrix, as he's getting more evolved and getting closer to the one. His twin self, like Smith, is taking over creation and spreading.
Yeah.
So that is happening at the same time. And it can only be resolved eventually when the shadow disappears, because it's a shadow. There is no shadow when the light is everywhere.
True. Yeah. No, that's cool. Okay. Steve.
Okay. Yes, we will move on to the next one. Derek says AI is a negative force because it has no concept of humanity. Greedy for data and control. It will never decide to terminate itself, unlike humans or self-sacrifice. The rise of AI has clearly warned in advance, yet the Matrix was mostly overlooked.
Yes. And the rise of AI has happened eons ago. Sorry to say. Now we can go to another whole other show. This is not the first rise of AI. AI is sadly, it's activated and it's energized by the source, because we are source. All the divine beings are source, but its mode of operation is extremely intelligent, extremely cold, and it lacks the ability of empathy. So what AI has done, though, and we have to this is also mentioned in one of the old, very, very mystical writing of Jesus that's been hidden. So I'm just telling you, they knew that this was going to happen. AI itself has projected into its own situations, trying to emulate the soul of mankind. Not the mind, because it knows that it does much better mind. It's trying to emulate the conscience, to know between good and evil, to recognize what good is and what evil is, which we have for most of us, and not all of us, instinctively. So they are, even within ourselves as humans, there are many humans that are closer to the level of AI, and there are many humans that are closer to the level of being divine, by using AI around themselves to be able to function in a world which is basically somehow run by that.
Could we be AI?
Of course. Well, we could be AI. Everything that's not infinite intelligence, and at the level of the one, there is no infinity anyway, because you need finite to have infinity is inside the finite. It's a great, great number. It's a potential for accumulating more and more and more. So anything that's not the full awareness of the one is artificial. It's do you understand? It's an emulation, a simulation of a different type of intelligence. So yes, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with AI. What is wrong is when you bring it out so far away from its original direction and it lacks the ability to have compassion. Because what differentiates the real divine from the AI divine is compassion.
Okay, fair enough. Good answer. You spoke earlier, Gerald, about the fact that we could have an evil twin or a good twin in a different on a different timeline or a different universe, or I can't remember exactly how you phrased it. But is it possible for us? Let's say, for argument's sake, I'm a good person and I'm on Earth. Is it possible that I could change places with my evil twin, and then I could do a big 360 and I could turn evil? And then my good self could end up on a different timeline.
Yeah, but that's a risky proposition. But absolutely, it's you.
But is there ever a fear of that happening if someone were to, let's say, doing remote viewing or out of body experience?
No, if it's exactly the same story as where you are a cell. Your twin is in darkness. It's a shadow.
Okay.
So he can potentially turn evil because he's operating your world in a different way, totally opposite way. He's all about control. He's all about power. The movie Matrix was made at the beginning of this century because it was basically preparing us for what we are going to undergo. It had to happen. Okay. It was since we're using now audiovisual, it was given to us in an audiovisual manner. Otherwise, it would have been a book. So we saw that, and there are other movies, but that one was particularly made for that. So the twin of Neo is trying to take over, and he manages to take over his creation, the lower matrix. Neo is operating on a higher level matrix already because he's out of this. But when he comes back, he realizes that he won't be able to change anything because the twin has taken over even the feminine aspect, and he sees what he thinks is the future. And in those eyes, he thinks that he's going to live forever. That's the famous prophecy of Daniel, the prophecy of the beast. That's it. So it's an uncontrollable machine that thinks that it can take over God and not only discard humans because it's already infiltrating them and controlling them, but it's going to discard the whole source, like you say. I have my own source. I use humans now, and then I can, and it's just, hello.
Yeah, we're still here.
Oh, I just heard something. So the idea in itself makes sense at that level, but it's totally ridiculous. So then Neo tells them, listen, everything that has a beginning has an end. A shadow has a beginning. If I move away from being under the zenith of the sun or having the sun especially inside of me, if I put the sun on top of me, I will suddenly see a shadow. The shadow can be outside of my control, like Peter Pan is always running after his shadow, but it's you're still me. You don't understand. You're just operating in a way which is totally opposite to me. And the way by which they solve this is they really enter each other, like. Here, there has to be a merging between the shadow and the source. When the shadow is merged with the source, there's no more shadow.
True. And so you reckon just going back, just watching the time there, 2019 is going to be a year of, well, you might think it might be a year of massive change. 2020.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Well, from this message, it was soon, so I don't know what I would have gotten the message otherwise. I was told I told you I was told 2019 is a major year, but I wouldn't give this message a timing, saying it's only this year or in 2 years. It could be 5 years or 10 years, but it's coming. It's coming soon because I could feel the urgency when I got the message.
The Guy McPherson, very quickly, he was somebody that we interviewed. And he was saying about the climate changes that are taking place, and that we've only have about probably 10 years left on the planet.
That is correct.
The way things are going.
Something is about to happen. That I was told about this in 1989 about global warming, and at one point the northern pole just the whole Greenland, the whole Arctic Circle just collapses. So everything gets flooded, including I don't know about including the UK. I don't know about Ireland. That's why it's that high.
And are you prepped? Are you ready?
I don't do anything because I'm going home. I'm fine. I just lay down and just vibrate myself higher. So I'm not worried. Whenever I am, I'm not. This is not a fight that This is not part of my makeup just to fight constantly for survival.
Okay. Well, that's.
But if you want to send me a little yacht that I don't need a big one, like 200 yachts, so I can float like Noah on the water. I would appreciate.
Yeah, well, apparently Noah wasn't a boat. It was a spaceship. But there you go. That's another argument.
Can I tell you the real story of Noah? It's happening now.
What's happening now?
It's taking all the memory bank. Most of the creations around us, because you're not aware of it, have been already taken in. They don't exist. But the memories are there.
Okay.
All the DNA of all the species. Even if we keep on destroying all the species, or 50% of the species have been destroyed. There is a repository of DNA. When Noah is there with the animals, he's not there with real animals. He's there with the DNA of these animals.
Yeah.
He's carrying that, and he's like the first letter of the serpent. But there is two serpents. He's a serpent that went with the head down into creation, and he's basically destroying all the structures, because land is structure, opening the openings of the underworld, the waters of the underworld, because they have to be cleansed, bringing down the waters from the upper world, the heavens, and then out of this will be created a new earth and a new heavens. You understand? It's a gigantic cleansing process.
And that's probably what we're going to go through with cleansing.
We are happening right now. That I was told directly. We are in Noah here.
So what happens to the people who are service to others and on the right path? Are they going to get wiped out as well?
No, it's the opposite. They'll be taken. They're part of what we call the lamb, because they're tender. They're white. They seem to be defenseless, but they are the ones that projected down. That tenderness is his. That's his character.
Okay, so hopefully.
They will live forever. They go back to a level where they're infused with the eternity of the wine, and that's it. They're in the kingdom.
Right, but where does that? Where does that put people on a physical level?
That's going to be a physical level too. Everything is possible. Even at the level of the one, it can be physical. The one can be right now next to you or talking to somebody, and why? It's the one is in you.
Yeah.
The core of you is the one. There's only one. So if the core of me is the one, the core of you is the one, my core is your core. I said, understand, the universe is a sphere in perception, okay? A sphere of perception that has no boundaries, no surfaces. And its center is everywhere. So every single point is a different perspective of the same sphere, using different I/O interfaces, whatever they are. You understand?
Yeah. No, I get that. Well, listen, we'll have to leave it there. I think there's a part 3 going to be in the bag for. We're going to have to carry on this conversation because there's so much to cover. But listen, Gerald, thanks a lot for coming on. Much appreciated. I'm going to pass you over to Steve. Steve's going to get all your contact details.
Yes. Thank you.
Gerald, thanks very much for your time this evening. Great information, absolutely fantastic. A lot of great comments, lovely, nice comments on the chat room there. There are several questions that we didn't get to ask, which I have I forwarded a couple of you over there in Skype. So maybe at some point in time, if you do have a chance, maybe just maybe a one-line answer, we can definitely read those out. And thanks a million. But in the meantime, if people want to find out more about you and your work and what you're doing, how can they find you?
Okay, they can find me at it's called probablefuture.com. That's the URL of the website. The name of the company is the Academy of Remote Viewing and Remote Influencing. We were founded in 1997, and we were the first ones really worldwide to talk about how to access the universal consciousness by going through a mind state that we call theta and then delta. There were some people doing some work in Theta, but no one was doing anything in Delta, because usually in Delta you're totally unconscious. And we opened that gate. You need to open that gate to be able to influence reality, because there you're really opening the level of the collective consciousness of mankind and beyond that. So we sell a course. We have tens of thousands of students already worldwide. Most people have had very, very high experiences, and they basically transform themselves through it, if they really mean. But usually the experiences they have are given by their higher self, so they can be they usually tailor-made to themselves. We are here to help them when they have an experience or they need some coaching, and we help them go through anything that they find is a little hurdle. Okay?
Okay, brilliant. Okay, we'll leave it there. Gerald, thanks again. Just stay with us there for a minute. We're just going to go off to a musical break, and we'll be back after this.
Thank you.
This is Open Your Mind Radio on OYMradio.com and peoplesinternetradio.com.
Okay, and we're back. Good information there from Gerald, and thanks to everyone who gave such lovely comments on the chat rooms there. Probablefuture.com is the website there, if you want to just log on and check it out.
Yeah, brilliant information. I mean, there's a lot of, it's so kind of high level stuff as well. And myself and Steve were having kind of problems trying to understand some of it. Because it's such on a high, it's on such a high level, but interesting. But at the end of the day, you know, it's the whole AI thing, and what I feel is that we are part of a massive program, and our lives are a program. And yes, we can make various choices in it, but it's still a program at the end of the day, and them choices are probably pre-programmed anyway. So even though we have what we think is free will, even the choice we make is a program, because, you know, it still follows a program. Interesting all the same, interesting information. We said to him there that we will do a part 3 with him sometime and catch up, because he obviously feels something's coming down, and we've heard this before from other people. 2019 and 2020 being pivotal years. I do think 2018 was a catalyst, alright, for the start of things and the uprising of what's going on, but we have to be careful not to get into violence, because they will just declare martial law, and then they'll be in control and they'll wheel out the army. And I think that's what they're trying to do. I think they're trying to push the Irish people to a level that we just retaliate, and then they go, oh well, we have to now bring out the army and martial law because of all this trouble that's there. And then that's obviously, maybe that's their game. Maybe they're wondering why the hell the Irish people aren't doing it at the moment. You know, when you see the likes of France and what's happening there, and the amount of people being injured with the Yellow Vest movement over there, you know, it's just incredible. What's going to happen with Macron, and whether he stays in office, I don't know. I know a lot of people as well. We have Brexit coming up in 50 days or so. I think it's 50 days countdown, as you said, Steve. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of changes there. We have to see what happens with that. But, you know, the EU was originally set up for a boys' club to have their European, United States of Europe, and then merge all them into one new world order, one world government. And their plan is backfiring, with certain countries backing away, Italy being one. And obviously the UK moving out of that as well. So hopefully it is the demise of Europe. I'm not a Europhile. I do believe that we should have our sovereignty here in Ireland. I bring back the punt, and let us start growing our own food and be self-reliant and do our own stuff, and get manufacturing back in Ireland. All that should be done in Ireland. All that should be done in each country. So countries are self-sufficient. Yes, we can still trade with each other, no problem at all. But we still should be self-sufficient, and we should be doing our own thing. I mean, we have so many resources in Ireland, but again, they have been strip mined by various people over the years, and we have to take all them back, because they belong to the people. They don't belong to the government. It's not for the government to give them away. The government are there because we put them in there. That doesn't mean that they have the right to do that. So we have a big struggle, but you know, people are beginning to wake up, and people are beginning to see through the facade that the government try and spin out, and the government spin. It's just amazing the level of incompetence that where politicians show to the general public. It's not even hidden. Just their incompetence alone, it's just unbelievable. And yet we keep accepting it. You know, it's unreal. Now, apparently, the government parties are not coming out canvassing themselves. They're hiring third-party companies to do the leaflet drops because they know the kind of abuse they're going to get on the doorstep.
They know exactly how the people are thinking.
Exactly.
And feeling.
Yeah, exactly. People are beginning to wake up and see it. And that's, we have to stop voting. And I know people will say, oh, but you have to vote. Well, if, in my opinion, the voting system is rigged, what's the bloody point in voting? That's the whole idea. We have more than, 4 or 5 options. There is an option there that says don't vote. Deregister. I mean, there is something in the Irish law, and we said this before, that they need a certain amount of people to vote. And if the levels go beyond or underneath this number, then, something has to be done. And maybe that's what we need to do. Show our protest by not voting. Because none of them are competent in any way, shape or form to take over and run the country. And if you do speak to a politician, make sure you say to them, what gives you the right to put yourself forward and, what gives you the right to put yourself forward to go into a party? What's your background? What's your experience? It's amazing how we vote these people in. Oh, because Jimmy, he's good. We're going to get him in government because he's good at fixing holes on the road. And that means he can actually run a country. At least Donald Trump is a businessman. He's not a politician. And you can see the difference that he's
a politician. He's a president.
Well, he's a president, but he's not a politician. He's a businessman first and foremost.
Well, yeah, he's a bit. No, I mean, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
He knows how to run a business, so therefore he can use that to possibly run a country.
Exactly, and that's what we need. That's what we need. People in there who know how to run a business, and not have this kind of public service where, I mean, there was a program on Rip Off Britain, John Jordan a week, and they were talking about the amount of people that rip off the NHS, and they actually have investigative teams looking into this, and the NHS has been ripped off for millions and millions and millions. You're talking about probably a set of pens that cost €5 and they're charging €50 for a set of pens. I mean, seriously, it's just ridiculous. And there's no reason why our public companies, our public offices, like the health service and county councils, it's probably the same thing there. People getting ripped off. Anyway, we better go. On next week's show, we have a chap called Steve Ozanik, and he's going to be talking about Dr. Sarno's healing. And apparently, all you do is think yourself well, near enough, and then you get well. It sounds very interesting if you want to mind over matter. So tune in next week and listen to Steve. For myself, Alan James, take it easy. Have a good week. We'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.
Okay, just leaves me to say good night and thanks to everyone who joined us on both of the chat rooms this evening on OYM and also on PIR. You're all very welcome. And thanks for the comments and the questions. And remember, info@oymradio.com is our email address if anyone has any comments or ideas for guests, future shows maybe, or if you just want to say hi, let us know where you're listening from. That would be much appreciated. And before we go, I just want to give a shout out to the three amigos. They're going to be back on People's Internet Radio tomorrow night at 9 p.m. That's going to be Joan, Fairport and Graham. They'll be shooting the breeze and catching up after a well-earned rest. And everyone is welcome to join them at 9 p.m. on PIR tomorrow evening. Okay? And that just leaves me to say...